In this video, we're going over 7 tips to dominate Season 6. If you want to climb as quickly as possible, this is the perfect video for you. But only about 20% of you are actually subscribed, so what are you waiting for? Press that subscribe button and let's get into it. Now, I've said it before and I'll say it again, tanks are still not freaking killable. They're simultaneously incredibly hard to kill and the biggest threat on the battlefield that can kill you just because you're out of position. With characters like Orisa getting big buffs, all of a sudden you're going to have these giant tanks in your face and you're not going to be able to do anything about them. And if you think that just shooting them the entire time is your way to stop them, you're wrong. You're not going to be able to do anything about it. Oftentimes you want to use distance to make sure that you're far enough away from these tanks that they can't easily pivot upon you, and you're trying to control off angles and put damage into characters that actually care about your damage, aka squishies, DPS, and supports. Now, the biggest mistake I see is players relying on their tank for protection. You think just because your tank is somewhat in front of you, if their tank comes and pushes you out of nowhere, your tank will just stop them? Most of the time, no. That tank will not be able to stop them before they can kill you, or your tank will go and do their own thing and just kind of leave you out high and dry. You need to understand the effective range for a lot of these tanks. How quickly can they pivot onto you? How fast can they go from doing what they're doing on the front line to being on you? And are you realistically far enough away so that you can deny them or run away if they decide to make that pivot? A lot of the time, if you're dying, I don't care if it's through 3 people on your team and you're the one that dies, you are making a positional mistake. You're not respecting the movement ability of that enemy tank, and you're not recognizing them as a threat enough. Now, this doesn't mean you never ever shoot tanks. If a tank is in your team's controlled position and they're far away from their team, you can 100% focus them. In fact, you should, because it's either going to punish them and kill them or shorten the time that they're in your back line. So like if a ball slams in, you don't want that ball to slam in on your support and then just be able to just shoot at your support for like, I don't know, 10 seconds without any repercussions at all. But you're not trying to necessarily kill this person if it's not killable. You're not trying to do some damage, they roll away, you chase them around, you spend the entire fight trying to chase this person around even when they get back to their team, and you're just never going to kill that person. You're just wasting all your time and effort. You're just trying to get them the hell away from your team and out of your team's controlled space so your teammates don't have to worry about it. And then of course, if someone's like super out of position, of course just kill them. I mean, if a Ryan is pinning into your back line and they're completely ISO, then yeah, 100% super easy kill. Doesn't matter how tanky you are if you have 0 support. Then the next thing, and this is a super big tip if you want to get better, a lot of people ask me for map guides and detailed map analysis, but the problem is there's a lot to cover because there's a ton of maps. Every single character positions differently on these maps, and there's so many different variables that can be changed depending on how your team is playing, how the enemy team is playing, and how good you are at your character. There's a million different factors, but you can still do 2 things that can greatly increase your win rate on certain maps and your win rate overall. Number 1, you can look at general positioning guides. I have several on this channel that teach you the fundamentals on how to position so you're less likely to die, you could be effective, and these positioning tips, playing around natural cover, making sure that you can cut line of sight from an enemy when you want to, giving you options. This is just going to make you better at every map no matter what it is. And the second thing you can do is you can actually record your wins and losses on maps. You have like a notebook or a document. Every time you lose on a map, you mark it. Every time you win on a map, you mark it. And then it gives you a super big idea about what your win percentage is on maps. And then you can just look and evaluate that there's some maps that you have like a 20%, 30% win rate, and it's just atrocious. And that could be something that you either go focus on in your own time and be like, okay, what am I doing on these maps that's so bad? Why am I constantly losing on these maps? Or if in a private coaching session with me in the links down below, we can make sure to focus on those maps so I can talk to you specifically about what you're doing wrong and right on these maps. Now, the next thing that we need to talk about is fighting for positions and not just damage or picks. A lot of the time, people just want to go around and they're like, how do I get to the support? How do I kill this person? How do I fight this person? But that's not really what you should necessarily be thinking about. You need to think about what are the positions that your team wants to take that give you an advantage. And a lot of these can be high ground. A lot of these can be powerful angles. And it's important that you're not only fighting to get these yourself, whether you're a support, a DPS, or even a tank, but you're also fighting to deny them. I want you to imagine this situation. You're standing in the middle of a choke. There's high ground on both sides, and there's a Hanzo that keeps popping to the top left of y'all. And every time he pops up there, he peeks, he shoots at your team. Maybe he doesn't kill someone all the time, but after his 3rd, 4th shot, he gets a kill, and then he gets another kill, and then he gets another kill. Now, the thing is, this Hanzo is not destroying your team and rolling your team because he's good, necessarily. He's just not being contested. He's allowed to take this angle that is really close to you, that if y'all just routed to the high ground, if y'all just focused him, if y'all just made sure to clear and claim, he couldn't just sit up there and take free pot shots at your team. And this is super important, that these positions are constantly things that should be taken and be contested. If you allow an enemy to have a scary angle, a powerful high ground, that you're just giving them for free, then they're getting a ton of value and your team is going to suffer for it. And if there is a good position that you're not taking, then you could do the same thing to the enemy team, but you're just not taking advantage of it. Oftentimes, though, one of the biggest things that I see is that you try to go up and you try to contest like a high ground or a powerful angle. You do it alone and you die, right? And the number one tip I can give you is just to ask people for help, but do it this way. Just say, hey, can someone come help me deal with this person? And you just go to a place and people will come help you. Now, I'm not going to say it's going to work 100%. Sometimes people just say fuck off, or they just completely ignore you. Duoing is really amazing so that you can do these joint plays together, or look for an opportunity that happens in the mid fight so that that person is weak, out of position, alone, and then you can go push them, make a play, take that position, or fight for that angle. Now, as a follow-up to this, the fourth tip that I have for you is find someone to help. You see, in a lot of games, everyone is just making their own plan. Everyone wants to be a leader. Everyone is kind of just going and doing their own thing, and nothing's working. And especially if you're just playing on a team where you feel like you're not doing anything, like your whole team is not doing anything, like y'all just are getting diffed, rolled, destroyed. This is not because the enemy team is just crazy better than y'all. This is not because they're all secretly top 500 players and y'all are, you know, gold players or plat players or diamond players. This is often because there's a disconnect between the plans of everyone on the team, and everyone is just off each other's plans. And sometimes on some teams, your plans just sync up perfectly, right? Everyone just has the same idea, and those are the teams that you get on where y'all just stomp and roll, and it feels like every time you're diving a target, everyone's on that target. Every time you're peeling for a person, everyone is turning around and focusing that person, right? Everyone feels like they're on point, right? But that doesn't always happen, and in most games they don't. So here's what you have to do. You need to say, okay, this is not a game for me to lead. This is not a game for me to take charge. This is not a game for me to be proactive. This is a game for me to slow down, look around, and find someone to help. Find someone to follow. This is so powerful because you force that synergy. You force at least two people on your team to be doing the same thing, to be working on the same goal. And this could be as simple as just saying, okay, I'm going to slow down here. Instead of trying to go and make my own thing happen, I'm going to help enable someone else's plan, and I'm going to make sure that it works really, really well. Now, I will tell you the secret here, and this is kind of a hard truth, but it's really, really true. If you're someone that doesn't like to do this a lot, if you like to take charge, if you like to take initiative, if you like to go with a proactive plan right away, and you do these things without calming, then it's useless. I mean, imagine a leader, someone trying to lead you into battle, someone trying to lead a strategy, a game plan, but they don't say a fucking word and they expect you to know, right? That's not gonna work. It's just not gonna work. So if you're not willing to do that, at the very least, slow down, find someone to follow, find someone that's on the same page as you, and try to force that work together, even if you're not actively, you know, communicating to do it. Now, the fifth tip, and this is a really big one, and this is that meta is overrated. And I do understand that I'm about to whip out 3 tier lists, and these are typically my best performing videos because people really like to see what is meta, but I want to make it clear for you that in the majority of ranks, in fact, in all ranks, you can play whatever you want. Oftentimes, characters that are off meta have an advantage because people are not really that used to playing against them. And just because you're playing something that is not necessarily quote-unquote meta, as long as you have a game plan, especially against quote-unquote meta characters, then you'll be completely fine. If you know you can get value, then that's all that matters. Because I want you to just think about like the meta characters in your mind. You've all had those teammates that has locked a meta character and has done literally zero, right? They get 0 kills, they do nothing, right? So who cares what character you pick if you don't have a way to get value with them? And if you want to play something that is completely off meta, but you know you can get value with that character, then who cares? But the other thing that I will say is if you still want to play like the most optimal picks in certain situations, I would first look at maps what maps are you playing on, attack, defense. This is gonna be a better indicator about what to play than like some obscure top-down meta, because every character has good or bad maps and certain strategies have good or bad maps. Next up is synergy. What are your team playing, and does that synergize with your picks? Remember when we talked about finding someone to follow and that everyone's on a different game plan? This happens more often when players are playing completely different types of characters that work on different axes. As an example, let's say there's a Genji and a Sigma, right? Genji is trying to go and find an execute, trying to maybe go in with a dive, going to try to take advantage of the enemy's position, go in really aggressively, right? The Sigma is oftentimes just poking and applying constant pressure. It's like a slow, overwhelming wave, right? So they operate in completely different ways. They don't synergize at all. So you would have to work really hard to even help each other in any meaningful way. And that's another thing that you can think of. If you have a hero pool of like 3, 4, 5 characters, try to line that up, match that up with your tank, match that up with the synergy of your team. That's going to be better than just picking a character based off of meta. And then finally, your matchups. This is the last one I would say. If there's certain characters that you feel like you cannot deal with on the characters that you're playing, find someone else in your hero pool that you could swap to very easily. So like, let's say you're getting freaking harassed by a Sombra all game. You can definitely swap up your character that has better matchups against them. Or if they're playing a flying character, Pharah or Echo, you want to play a character that has at least some game against them. You don't have to always swap, but it is something to consider when actually deciding your character, rather than struggling a little bit, looking at a meta sheet, and then just picking whatever's at top. That makes no sense at all. Next up is the tip for those of you who have competitive anxiety. And anxiety is a difficult thing to deal with, especially when it prevents you from grinding, and because you're not grinding, you're not getting any better, and because you're not getting better, you get more anxiety. So it's like a freaking cycle, right? It can be a problem. I've had it before. Now, number one, you need to understand that your rank is not tied with your skill. Just because you have a high or low rank doesn't mean that you're a certain type of player, and there's no reason why you can't become better over time. Don't just relate your rank to your skill at all times. That's like relating your salary to your worth or whatever. It doesn't freaking matter. It doesn't speak to what you can do and what you can become, right? But I know just mentally trying to think of that doesn't always work. So the other tip I'll give you is to have 2 accounts and use the stair-step method. What I typically like to do is have 2 accounts, my main and then another account that I grind to about the same rank, and then I play on the same roles, the same characters, and I'm trying hard on both of them. And this is the important part. You're trying your best. A lot of times people will get an alt account and they say, it's an alt account, I don't care. I'm not gonna calm on this account like I do on my main. If someone's toxic or if someone is like, you know, bitching or whatever, I'm gonna, you know, not care anymore. Maybe I'll even do something silly or just swap to something silly, because why do I care? This is not my main. Don't do that. Treat it like it's your main account. Play as hard on it as you would your main. Do everything you would do on your main. And then give it your all. Get to one account to the higher level, and then grind on the other one until you can match the first one. And then get the next one a little bit higher, and then go back to the other one and get that one higher. And you're stair-stepping back and forth, but it helps you not sync your rank to your skill, mainly because you always know that you have that other account that is at a higher skill. So even if you go on a loss streak, you know, hey, I already got that rank on 2 accounts. It's not a fluke. It is me, and I can always play on that account if I want to, and it's a higher rank. So there's no downside. It's a really great way to deal with this competitive anxiety. And then last up, realize confidence only comes with experience. The first time you try to ride a bike, the first time you try to drive a car, you definitely sucked at these things. You were nervous about these things, but eventually it's not even an issue. It's not even a problem. And that's just the grind, right? Yes, you might be afraid that you're not going to perform. You're going to throw a game, whatever. But eventually, I promise you will carry a game. You will perform well. You just need to keep at it. So yeah, that's the best advice I can give you. And then the last but certainly not least tip that I got for you is those of you who really want to get better at a character, I would suggest that in your downtime, start watching good players at the characters you main and think about what they're doing critically. So if you're like a Genji player, watch a Genji main, a high-level Genji main, and don't just mindlessly turn off your brain and watch them. Ask yourself questions. Why do they play in a certain way? Why do they push here? Why do they pull back here? What of their plays work? What of their plays don't? Compare your differences. If your goal is to become as good as this person, if not better, how far away is your mechanics to them? How far away are they from you where you want to go? And does the plays they make only work because of their mechanics? Would it work otherwise? Ask yourself these questions. Study these questions. Learn. And this is a great way because you're looking at someone who is performing well, but you're thinking about it through a critical lens and not just trying to perfectly one-to-one copy them because you don't have the same teammates, you don't have the same mechanical skill, you don't have the same understanding, but at the same time, they are oozing posing with good habits that you can take in and learn from, as long as you take it with a grain of salt, ask yourself smart questions, and do actual critical research on them while you're watching them simultaneously. But anyways, these are the biggest tips that I got for you. But if there's any tip that you think I missed that would help other players, let me know in the comments down below. And check out my Patreon for private coaching if you really want that guided help to quickly climb you to Grandmaster and beyond, like so many have before. Check it out right now in the links down below, and I'll see you next time.